Welcome to the Spirit Room. This podcast is a gathering place for people in search of personal growth and life's higher meaning. I'm your host, Mike Consul. I also invite you to spend time on the Spirit Room website, where you'll find headlines about religion, spirituality, psychology, and the New Age movement. Just go to thespiritroom.org. Is your life going according to plan? That's a question I ask a lot of people. Sometimes it's a server at a restaurant. Sometimes it's a coworker who I see in the kitchen at the office. I'm always curious about whether people feel like their life is on course or whether it's off course, and also whether people actually have a plan, whether they have actually laid out steps in their life, milestones that they expect to reach, and they know where they want to be at a certain time in their life. For instance, they want to accomplish something or other by the age of 30, let's say. What I find is that there's a lot of people who have really lived their lives like I have, which is just been opportunistic. I never really had a grand plan. I've always taken advantage of whatever opportunities presented themselves, and the opportunities always did present themselves. In some ways, I kind of figured God will put in front of me what needs to be brought to my attention. And that's really worked out because my career in the newspaper and magazine industry has gone very well and probably exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways. I was recently interviewing a woman who runs a $26 billion investment house. She's responsible for $26 billion. She's the chief investment officer. I asked her if she had a plan. And the answer was no, that she had just taken advantage of various opportunities. And it's always worked out for her. And now she's running a very large organization, very successful, and good for her. So it sort of begs the question, if God has a plan, because we talk about God having a plan, and God has a plan for our lives, then how do we know that our planning is not some sort of countervailing plan to the Creator's plan? I've always felt that leave it up to the Creator to set the tone and the direction and follow the chi, as they say, as some people say. Now, there's other people who have made a tremendous amount out of life by putting together a plan. You know, there's those people who very early in life, they know what they want to do with their lives. Not only do they know what they want to do with their lives, they're convinced that they're going to be a certain thing. They just knew early in life that was their destiny. Now, in a case like that, it may be that was God's plan. They knew it. They could feel it in their bones. They could feel it in their soul that this is what God wanted for them. This is where they were being directed. It is a real gift to know very early in life what it is that you're supposed to do with your life, and then to actually realize it. I suppose it's an exercise in tremendous frustration if you're convinced that you're supposed to be doing a certain thing with your life, and you make the effort, and it never happens. You're foiled. That's got to be very frustrating, because on the one hand, you believe you're supposed to be doing it. It's what the Creator wants, and then what? You start to blame yourself for not having put in proper effort, for not having been good enough. I've never talked to a person, in my recollection, that has said that to me, but I'm sure they're out there, because there's people of every stripe out there, everything we could possibly imagine, it's there. We know that. After all, there's 7 billion people on the planet as of this recording. Many years ago, when I was living in Sedona, Arizona, I knew an author named. I won't name names. Let's put it this way. But I asked him how he knew he wanted to be a writer, and he had heard Dylan Thomas reading some of his work. The writer Dylan Thomas reading some of his work on the radio, and he remembers thinking to himself, and this is when he was a little boy, thinking, that's for me. And he knew. That was the trigger right there. He knew. And I've heard this story, these types of stories a lot, where somebody sees or hears something and they just know, that's what I want to do with my life. I mean, how many people saw the Beatles perform on the Ed Sullivan Show and then decided, that's it, I want to be a rock star, a rock and roll star? Kevin Durant, the famous basketball player, just won an NBA championship with the Golden State Warriors. He had told his mother when he was just a young kid, I'm going to play in the NBA and I'm going to win a championship, Mom. And she was there with him when he won it. She was there on the court after the game, celebrating with him. It's a beautiful moment. And by the way, just to underscore what I had mentioned earlier, the $26 billion woman I called her, she actually studied engineering in college, had no idea what she was going to do with her engineering degree, and took advantage of opportunities. She actually saw people working in the investment business and the research business at investment houses, and she was putting in telecommunication systems at the time, putting her engineering degree to work. But she saw people having more fun than she did, doing the research, putting together investment portfolios and so on. And they were making considerably more money as well, which is not a bad motivation. And she ended up making that switch. So you have to wonder sometimes how many... we take advantage of opportunities that put in front of us, but how often do we miss those opportunities? I can look back on my life and know that there was some opportunities that maybe I didn't pursue, or that I pursued and I mishandled. I could have made a better effort at it, and who knows what may have happened if I had been a little bit more diligent about the pursuit of that opportunity. On the other hand, I'm very happy with where I am right now, so all good. But there still leaves those question marks in life, those opportunities, those roads not taken, to use the platitude, the road not taken. I like to believe that life is this long and winding road, and regardless of where that road takes us, whether we live a life that's full of successes and happiness or filled with poverty and failures and frustration, that long and winding road takes us all to the same place. It takes us back to where we came from. Back to the eternal, back to the absolute. And in those terms, we really shouldn't overthink such things. We should not worry that if we don't know what God's plan is for us, what we should be doing with our lives. There's so many people out there who just don't know what they want to do. I've known a lot of them. I'm sure you have too. They just don't know what they want to do. And that's okay. It's just pick something. It can actually work out just fine doing it that way. And on the one hand, we want to take life seriously. On the other hand, we don't want to take life too seriously, because we're here for a certain amount of time and then we go back. We go back to where we came from. And I think the bigger issue is living a moral life, a life that where we are good to people, are good to ourselves, and are good to others. Really important to be good to yourself, because if we're not good to ourselves, it makes it a lot more difficult to be good to others. So my answer to that question is yes, life is going according to plan for me, even though I don't have a plan, because, well, in a way I do have a plan. My plan is to let opportunities unfold before me and to take advantage of them. I've been doing that for decades now, and it's worked out for me. I hope it continues to work out for me. I know many people who have lived their lives the same way, and it's worked out for them. And I also know many people who have a very specific plan. They put together, their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan, and they took all the steps necessary to achieve their goals, and by God, they did it. And good for them. I just was never driven that way. That was just not my operating system, I guess. It can work either way. So I pose that question to you. Is your life going according to plan? And which model are you following? Are you opportunistic, looking for opportunities and taking advantage, or are you a person who has laid out a very specific plan? Also, are you a salmon? Are you one of those people who will swim upstream against the tide, or do you look for a channel? Do you look for that path of least resistance and flow along? I look at some people's lives and wow, things just happen for them in a big way. Really kind of an enviable situation. It just doesn't work that way for all of us, but I truly hope that your life is going according to plan, whichever model you're pursuing. And always remember that we're all one and the same. That long and winding road all leads to the same destination. So don't frustrate yourself with too many questions about what might have been or that road not taken. The road always finishes at the same destination. That's all for this episode. Godspeed.